President Trump and his administration just announced that they're looking at different ways to withdraw from NATO, and we have more and more Republican senators coming out supporting the president, which is causing mass panic in Europe because they will no longer be able to rip off the American taxpayer. And this is what it means to be America first. Let us get into it, starting with this video of Caroline Leavitt with a message from the president to NATO. Play clip.
I have a direct quote from the President of the United States on NATO, and I will share it with all of you. They were tested and they failed. And I would add, it's quite sad that NATO turned their backs on the American people over the course of the last 6 weeks when it's the American people who have been funding their defense. As you know, President Trump will be meeting with Secretary Ruta in a couple of hours here at the White House, and I know he looks forward to having a very frank and candid conversation with him.
The whole reason why we're in this situation is because when President Trump was launching Operation Epic Fury, he reached out to Europe and he said, hey, I'm going on this excursion. Who's willing to help? Who's willing to pledge assistance? And none of those countries agreed to help. And after the United States military defeated Iran, we went ahead and we asked them again for help because the Iranians, they threatened to mine the Strait of Hormuz, and they all said no. And not only that, they decided to not let us use their airspace and to not use their bases. And this is Marco Rubio on that very same matter. Play clip.
When we need them to allow us to use their military bases, their answer is no. Then why are we in NATO? You have to ask that question. Why do we have billions and billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars, over the years, trillions of dollars, and all of these American forces stationed in the region? If we can only use, in our time of need, we're not going to be allowed to use those bases. So I think there's no doubt, unfortunately, after this conflict is concluded, we are going to have to re-examine that relationship. We're going to have to re-examine the value of NATO and that alliance for our country. Ultimately, that's a decision for the president to make, and he'll have to make it. We're going to finish the job here. As I said, we're very, very close to achieving our objectives on all of these things that I've outlined. But I do think, unfortunately, we are going to have to re-examine whether or not this alliance that has served this country well for a while is still serving that purpose.
I disagree with Marco Rubio because I don't think we should wait until the conclusion of this operation for us to withdraw from NATO, because what they're doing to us is appalling. And I have a screen grab right here to show you, because we have a U.S. military aircraft taking off somewhere, I think in Germany, and what they're forcing us to do, because they closed their airspace to the United States military, they're forcing us to go all the way around, right? When we could have flown over these countries and get to Iran. They literally close their airspace and their bases to the United States military, which is appalling. And if you look at this graph right here, what it's showing is that the United States military spent almost $1 trillion on defense, right? And the next country in NATO that spends the most is Germany with only $93 billion, which is ridiculous. And the question is, why are we spending so much money and sending all of our troops to Europe to defend these countries? Whenever we need help and we ask them for help, they're not going to give us those help. And if you look at this graph as well, we have 34,000 troops in Germany alone. We have 12,000 troops in Italy, and the United Kingdom, 10,000 troops. And we asked them for a few minesweepers and they couldn't help us out. This is ridiculous. And all in all, we have over 84,000 to 85,000 troops in Europe. And not to mention all the equipment that we have over there, which is why the president made this post on Truth Social. NATO wasn't there when we needed them, and they won't be there if we need them again. Remember Greenland, that big, poorly run piece of ice? President Donald J. Trump. And this is what President Trump had to say in regards to NATO. Play clip.
And I have to tell you, I'm very disappointed in NATO, very. I think that NATO, I think it's a mark on NATO that will never disappear in my mind. You know, they're coming to see me on Wednesday. They're going to say, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that. Now they all of a sudden want to send things, you know. But they said it loud and clear at the beginning when I spoke to UK of all. I would have said they would have been the first because they're the oldest. And I say, yeah, I'd love to have a little help. He said, no, sir, we'd rather wait till you win. I said, I don't need help after we win. They have 2 old broken aircraft carriers, barely work. I said, I guess we can use them. Who the hell knows? I called the general. He didn't even want them. He said, we don't really need them. We got the SS Abraham Lincoln, sir. We don't need them. And I have to tell you,
And the thing that you have to keep in mind, it's not like we needed NATO for this operation. It was a test from the president, and they failed miserably. And a lot of people, they're going to tell you like, oh, NATO is a defensive organization, that someone has to be attacked for Article 5 to be invoked. Let me tell you, that is horse crap. Because look what happened in Ukraine. When Ukraine and Russia went to war, Ukraine wasn't a part of NATO. And everyone in NATO reached out to the United States for help. And we gladly gave them $300 billion to help Ukraine. And we're asking for a little bit of help with some minesweepers, a few of them. It's not a lot. We're not asking for a lot. And they all said no. They stopped us from using their airspace. They stopped us from using their bases. But yet they wanted us to commit troops in Ukraine. And they wanted us to send our military equipment to Ukraine. And this is the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, sending a message to NATO. Play clip.
And as far as NATO is concerned, that's a decision that will be left to the president. But I'll just say a lot has been laid bare. A lot has been shown to the world about what our allies would be willing to do for the United States of America when we undertake an effort of this scope on behalf of the free world. These are missiles that don't even range the United States of America. They range allies and others, and yet when we ask for additional assistance or simple access basing overflight, we get questions or roadblocks or hesitations. And the president's pointing out, you don't have much of an alliance if you have countries that are not willing to stand with you when you need them. He's simply pointing that out. And ultimately, it'll be his decision of what that looks like after.
This whole NATO arrangement is a one-sided arrangement that doesn't favor the United States. Because for one, we're spending billions of dollars every year on NATO, subsidizing their defense. We're sending our troops over there in Europe to defend Europe. And whenever we need a little bit of assistance, they cannot help us. So this NATO arrangement needs to end. Or maybe at least be restructured to favor the United States. Because I'm tired, along with a lot of Americans, of our tax dollars going everywhere else, helping everyone else, and not helping the people of America. We're just tired of it, which is the reason why Senator Mike Lee, a Republican, came out and he made this post on X where he said, "Leave NATO, defund the UN, America first." And I agree with this 100%. We need to start taking care of the American people and not these different countries that low-key hate this country. Fortunately, we have some people in Europe that's recognizing the importance of the United States to NATO. And here we have Secretary General Mark Rutte making it clear to the rest of the EU that Europe cannot defend itself without America. Play clip.
And if anyone thinks here, again, that the European Union or Europe as a whole can defend itself without the US, keep on dreaming. You can't. We can't. We need each other. And why do we need each other? I tell you. First of all, because also the US needs NATO. And the US is not only in NATO to prevent a mistake after the First World War, not to re-engage with Europe. And then again, the long arm of history reaching out to the US again in the Second World War. And if anyone thinks...
I have to disagree with him. I don't think the United States need NATO. NATO needs the United States more than we need NATO. What we need is for NATO to actually start pulling their weight. We need to stop spending so much on NATO or withdraw from the organization completely. Or if we're going to be in this organization, make sure it is a structure that benefits this country and benefit the people of this country, because we're spending billions of dollars, trillions of dollars over the past couple of decades to defend all these countries in Europe, and they're not doing anything for us. And the next clip that I want to show you is of Secretary General Mark Rutte. He came to the United States yesterday and he met with Donald Trump, President Donald Trump. And then he went on CNN and CNN asked him this question in regards to this war in Iran. Play clip.
Nuclear, and then you cannot negotiate any longer, and they have that power.
Is the world safer today than it was before the war was started?
Absolutely, because, and this is thanks to President Trump's leadership, degrading these capabilities is really very important for your and my safety here in the US, in Europe, in the Middle East.
Are you worried at all about
nuclear? And then you cannot negotiate.
So that was CNN trying to push the propaganda that the world is less safe. But fortunately, this guy, Secretary General Mark Rutte, he wants to see the alliance survive, which is why he came to the United States to meet with President Donald Trump. And we don't know how that meeting went, but I may do a follow-up video to this one. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think the United States should withdraw from NATO, or should we continue to support this organization? Also, please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.